Hi there, guys. Welcome to Midweek with Indiacharts. I'm your host, Muskan Kapoor, and I'm joined with Jay. Last week, we saw a lot of things. There was the Fed meet. Today is 1st of September. It's expiry date. So, we have a lot of questions coming up. I'm going to quickly start. So, Friday night was the Fed meet, after which we saw that the market was correcting really sharply. What happened? Why is it so?
So it was not actually Fed meet. The Fed had given a speech at Jackson Hole, and that was something which was very keenly watched by all the participants. So essentially, in that speech, what Mr. Jerome Powell said was that no matter what happens, he is going to focus on inflation. So in fact, he went on to say that during such transition, wherein we are right now in a high inflation, environment, and if we have to get the inflation down, so there will be some dramatic steps that needs to be taken, and that might even cause a problem to small businesses and households. He went up to that extent to tell that we would go probably towards that part in order to control the inflation. So right now, the whole argument versus growth versus inflation, I think the clear focus for the Fed is on inflation. For that matter, if the economy has to go in recession, maybe the Fed might want to do that to control the inflation worries. Because what happens is that when someone, they are below poverty, or the people who are earning daily wages, okay, they are not able to meet ends. That is because the inflation has gone out of hand. So at some point of time, Fed will need to come and take care of them as well. And probably, the Fed chair has indicated that they will go towards that path. And that might actually cause some bit of turbulence in the market. So
So,
up
are
till
they
now,
like hinting recession?
so the data is actually indicating, the leading data is indicating that there is surely some bit of slowness, because we had seen the PMI numbers which have come out, over there, we had seen some slowness. Okay. But on the contrary, what is happening is that the job opening is still very strong, which we saw the
Yes.
farm payroll. So that was still strong. So now, the people are anticipating that, Fed might not stop and it might continue to raise rate because the job opening is still very strong. So there are two diverging things that is happening. On one hand, the data seems to be suggesting a slowdown, the leading indicators like housing market and all of that, that seems to be slowing down. But at the same time, the labor market is still very strong, and which is what is sort of, causing some bit of inflation as well. So it seems from its speech that Fed is okay with a little more unemployment rate as well, as long as they get, inflation under control. So the whole debate, the whole talk during 2020 to 2021 as well was that don't fight the Fed. Okay, because that time they were printing money like no tomorrow. Okay. Now now it seems that the Fed wants that the market should go down, and probably the inflation should come down. Okay.
Correct.
So now at the same time, it looks like that we shouldn't fight the Fed, because I don't know, for some reason what is happening is that each time the data comes out, okay, and there is something, that the data indicates that it is a slowdown, the Fed person comes and they say that no, we are going to raise the rates. No, we are
Correct.
going to raise. So Fed members have been communicating that they will raise the rate, but for some reason market is not believing that they will raise the rate. At some point of time, the Fed will pivot. But I think from the Friday speech, it was more evident that no matter what will happen, they might continue, raise the rate unless the inflation worries, subside and inflation actually cools off.
Yes. The cycle go on for? This cycle of Fed saying that they might raise the rates, people not believing that it might happen, and a lot of confusion going on. What is like the timeline of when will we get a clarity eventually as to okay, ye ho gaya?
So what will happen is that, see, Fed will raise rate to an extent that it will start affecting the economy. Okay.
Correct.
And at that point of time, they will have to pivot, because when the economy slows down, you will see inflation also cooling off, because all the activities will also cool off. So there was also this talk that there will be a soft landing and all of that. But I don't know. I mean, whatever interviews and all I have read and the articles which I have been reading, all of it indicates that probably the Fed is going to go hard on it, and there might not be something called a soft landing. So I think your question, when will all this stop? It's probably when it's gone too far and the markets might eventually capitulate. I think that might be the point when Fed might pivot.
Makes sense. So we are seeing a 5-way decline happening in a lot of US indices lately. So what is it? Why is this happening? What does it indicate?
Sure. So I'll quickly share my screen.
Okay.
So yeah, so I'll just check the US indices. So you can see over here, in the Dow Jones, that it's a clean 5-wave decline. In S&P, it's a clean 5-wave decline. In Nasdaq 100, it's a clean 5-wave decline. In Russell, there is a 5-wave decline. And there is some other variation in other indices. But if you see many of the indices, they have shown a 5-wave decline. Now, we have discussed in the past that in whichever direction there is 5-wave, present. So be it on the way up or on the way down.
It trends on that down way.
Yeah. So it might, the next move might be in the direction of the 5-wave rise or the 5-wave decline. Okay.
Correct.
So right now we have seen a 5-wave decline over here. So there is a good chance that, at some point of time, maybe some bit of pullback might come into these indices. But post the pullback is done, there will be again a decline in all these indices. So I'll just, show each indices one by one. So if you see Dow Jones, if I go to the weekly chart, then, it has nearly done 61.8% retracement of the entire fall. Okay. And now it is starting to head lower. In fact, if you see Nasdaq 100, or maybe for that matter, even Nasdaq Composite. So the pullback over here has been even shallower. I think it has retraced some 50%. No, so it has not even retraced 50%. So, what is happening right now is that in Nasdaq particularly, it is so weak that it has not even retraced much. In fact, if you see somewhat similar cases for Nifty IT as well. So while Nifty had seen such a big pullback, okay, but there has been barely any pullback in Nifty IT. And that is why now they are getting sold off first, So it is like, okay, when the market is weak, so people will want to short the weaker components. Okay, so at this point of time, it is clearly IT. And that is what you are seeing in the US market as well, wherein, Nasdaq 100 has barely, retraced around 50% or so. So, and, after a pullback, if you are seeing a 5-wave decline, then most likely the next leg of the fall has started. And if that is true, now this would be a wave C. Okay. So this might possibly be sharp, and it might take, it might not take this much of time, wherein wave A had taken, I think, almost, let us say, 7 or 8 months it had taken. I don't think if wave C has to unfold, then it might take that much amount of time. So these are all, how the Dow indices are poised. And in fact, sir had written a very beautiful report on a long short report, which was just published a couple of days back. I would highly recommend all the users to go through that report and understand what the macro background is.
Correct. I will link it down for anybody who wants to go and read the report.
Yes. Please do that. It will be very helpful for the readers.
Correct. Yes. So when we were talking about all of these US indices, coming to India, coming to Nifty, we haven't seen a lot of correction. as compared to how they have been correcting. The exception is our small caps, because they have been intact even after Fed on Friday. It's not moving anyway in the negative direction. What is happening?
So yeah, so Indian markets are probably on steroids, and not Indian market, but small caps specifically seems to be on steroids.
Yes.
So, the funny part is that I do get calls, asking कि अरे क्या होगा, नया है तो नहीं जाएगा, सब चल तो नहीं
मैं भी
जाएगा,
कॉल कर रही हूँ.
मेरे पास कुछ माल तो नहीं है, तो so there is actually a FOMO feeling that is happening, which in
Yes.
terms of sentiment is perfect. Okay, because when people are not having positions and the market is, it would make them feel bad that they are not able to
Yes.
participate in the rally. And the moment probably they participate, things go haywire. That is how the history has usually been.
Yes.
Okay, so and one more interesting thing what is happening is that if you see Nifty small cap index, okay, it is making newer highs.
Correct.
Okay, whereas Nifty is not making that. Okay, now this has led to divergence. So, now there are many arguments. So, in fact, people are telling that this is a breakout. Eventually, Nifty small cap should head higher. But, I can show many instances, wherein after a breakout, there has been some bit of rally, but eventually it has faltered. I think it was over here, and maybe it was somewhere in the past as well. I think the data over here is not clear. But I can show you enough evidence that not every time a channel breakout is a breakout, provided you don't see an impulse move from the bottom. Over here, if we see, most of the highs and lows are overlapping, and there is possibly no way to, say that this is an impulse move. But what is happening right now is that the pullback is strong, and the stocks have corrected 20-30% early. So now they are seeing a meaningful pullback. And people are again, sort of feeling that FOMO factor that they are losing out. But, whenever I have seen divergences of this sort, okay, in fact, if you see for Nifty and Bank Nifty as well, so in today's trading session, okay, Nifty Bank had broken this high, okay, which was previous days, Tuesday's high, but Nifty has not done so, okay.
Correct.
You can see over here. And in fact, Nifty Bank had gone all the way back to its previous high almost. But Nifty has not been able to do so. Now, the reason being Nifty IT index, which is very, lethargic right now, and in fact, it is falling. And the other thing is that Reliance, which is the heavyweight, is not participating. So that is kind of making Nifty weak, and that is sort of, creating the divergence between the indices. But now the whole question is which way will it resolve? Okay, the whole point boils down to that. So I think the way Dow Jones is set up, okay, the way you are able to see the weakness in the Nifty index, all these are hinting towards weakness in the days to come. Okay, but
bear market.
So yeah, so I mean, not many people would like to hear this. But this appears to be a bear market.
A probability, yes.
Yeah. And most likely, we should see next leg of down move, once all this start. Now, the only issue is that the Indian indices are actually way more stronger than US. So what is happening is that US indices, if they are correcting 10%, we are correcting probably only 3-4%. And that is where, many of the people are, starting to say that have we decoupled. So I can't imagine of a scenario wherein, Dow Jones falls 10-15% and Nifty goes higher 10-15%. I mean, in my wildest of dream, I cannot imagine that. At the best, what may happen is that Nifty might consolidate, if at all it is very strong. Okay. And Dow Jones might keep falling. But to be honest, we have been tracking this market long enough now. We know that, when the narratives fall,
Yes.
Everything will fall off the cliff. So
Mm.
whether it happens this time around or whether Nifty is actually very resilient, that time will tell. But at this point of time, when we know that there is a lot of risk that is emerging, and Rohit sir
Yes.
has very beautifully pointed out in his long
Mm.
shot report.
Correct.
So once we know that backdrop and we know
Mm.
what are the possible risks that are there in the market, we would
Correct.
surely want to manage our risk, okay, and
Yes.
not be too optimistic and go all out.
Mm.
So
Mm.
my final submission is that only that right now it appears that the Indian indices are rock solid, okay, but the way it is poised, it doesn't look good. At some point of time, there is a possibility of a weakness, and in fact, when you look at Dow Jones indices, or if you see many other Asian indices and all, this looks even more prominent. So you know the only advice to the listeners would be to manage your risk, because if things
Correct.
go ugly, it can really get ugly. So
Mm.
that's how we are poised right now.
Correct. Makes sense. We got a lot of insights. Thank you so much for today. People who are listening can again check the link down below. I will attach the long shot report for anybody and everybody who wants to read it. It will be really helpful. So, yes, thank you so much, Jeff, for today. And we will see everybody next time. Thank you so much.
Welcome. Look forward.